Hello and welcome to another edition of Resistance TV. Tonight we're discussing grassroots campaigning, and I'm absolutely delighted to be welcoming Audrey White onto Resistance TV for the first time. Audrey's the secretary of the Merseyside Pensioners Association, which is a fantastic grassroots campaigning organisation. They set the standard, in my opinion, that should be followed by others all over the country. Her record as an activist is second to none. She was nominated on BBC Radio 4 as one of the most influential women of the last 100 years. She won a dispute over sexual harassment in the 1980s, which actually changed the law. And her case was then subsequently made into a film known as Business as Usual. And it starred actors like Glenda Jackson and John Thor and Stephen McGann. More recently, she won a case at the Independent Press Standards Organisation, or Ipso, after she was smeared by the Jewish Chronicle. Ipso upheld 6 breaches of its editorial code for accuracy against the weekly newspaper. But of course, many people will know Audrey through her highly publicised encounter with Sir Keir Starmer. As people will have seen, she confronted the Labour leader in a restaurant in Liverpool over his decision to write for Murdoch's scum newspaper. She also took him to task over the lies he told to get elected as the leader of the Labour Party. And she called him out over the despicable witch hunt against socialist anti-war activists and pro-Palestine campaigners that he's presided over. And then, of course, she was expelled shortly after that. So, hi, Audrey. Welcome to the show. Thanks very much indeed for coming on. I just want to start, really. I mean, you're a fearless campaigner and a fantastic role model. I mean, how do you summon up the courage to do the things that you do and that you've done in basically over your life?
Well, it's, to be honest with you, it's my upbringing. I don't know whether you know this. You may have seen it. There's a very short video of a young kid from Liverpool marching on a demonstration. I mean, a lot of people, you look out for it, and he's shouting in a high-pitched scat voice, "Equal pay for women, equal pay for women." And it's from the from the 70s. And an interviewer interviews him and says, "Why are you? What are you on this demonstration for besides equal pay for women?" And this young boy says, "Because I'm a comrade, aren't I?"
Good for him.
Everybody loves it. And
yeah.
You know who it is? It's my brother, my younger brother.
Oh, nice one. Right.
Yeah, and we were all, that's why, we were brought up, we had to, we didn't have to, but we come home from work, for instance, and we'd send money out to, my mother would say, "Oh, Pilkingtons are on strike. It's terrible what's going on there," and talk about it and say, can you give a, my mum worked in a laundrette. My dad was a tool maker.
Toolmaker, yeah, unlike Keir Starmer,
So, we would say, well, we'll give, we were 10 bob between us,
sure.
Send it off, So that's the upbringing. And
so was your mum and dad then political? Were they involved in politics and trade union activities and things like that?
Oh, my dad was deputy convener in the Standard Times and I think Ford's at one time.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah.
My mother was the firecracker.
Right.
Mother was always, we went on that in place of strike demonstration. Barbara Castle tried to bring out the anti-trade union.
Yeah.
And, I swear to this day, it was my mother who tried to push Vic Feathers into the fountain in Trafalgar Square. I don't know whether it was, but there's a little story. Yeah, she was great. She'd say to police on a demonstration, on great coppers on horseback, and she'd come down here and fight like a man. She was smaller than me, she was less than 5 foot. So listen, there's plenty like that all across the country. It's nothing special.
I think you are special, Audrey. I really mean that. And I think people from Liverpool are special. I mean, I always used to say that I'd love Britain to become Greater Liverpool because it seems to be a real kind of, political mindset, a progressive political mindset. I mean, and, one of the examples of that, of course, is the fantastic Merseyside Pensioners Association, which, as I've said in my introduction, kind of set the standard, really, for others to follow. young and old, actually, you know. And I just wonder whether you could maybe say a bit about the Merseyside. I know a bit about the Merseyside Pensioners Association. I'm sure people watching know a bit about it, but maybe you could talk about, you know, how did it start, the sort of campaigns that you're involved in, because it's fantastic, mate. It's really inspirational. I'm sure people will be really interested to hear about that.
Well, I think we're a very well-informed group. We meet, we did up until recently, used to meet even during the pandemic on a weekly basis. But we haven't got the access we need at Jack Jones' house, which is the Unite building that we used to have. And our meetings are a bit all over the place at the moment. But to be honest with you, we always have a speaker at our meetings. So it's the first thing on the agenda. We don't leave it till when we let the discussion run, so that all of our members can have a say. That we have people from, you know, we had from the Don't Pay campaign. We'll have somebody from every sort of political activity that's going on. We'll have the firemen along. We'll have the RMT along. We have very, very good discussions. But of course, it comes down to the fact that all our members, they don't have to be, but a lot of them, and a lot of them in Liverpool, they've been activists all their lives, and they're not going to stop now. And it keeps them going. You know, they've been on. I mean, there was stuff on Twitter the other day about the thing that happened. I mean, I know you're going to discuss that a bit later. What happened on Friday night? And we did a film and put the film on Twitter. It's got like 90,000 views, and somebody put what as a comment? What? Old age pensioners out in the cold? I don't think so. You know,
really. Yeah, thought it was a kind of a
but everybody's saying around the
Yeah.
country, thank you to the Merseyside pensioners for putting what really did happen, you know, out there. So I think it's to do with, we've got people from all sorts of parties, all sorts of unions, in all sorts of walks of life. People worked on building sites right through to lecturers and, you know, office workers and teachers, and they're all great campaigners. So that's why what happened with Keir Starmer in the restaurant, it wasn't just me. They were all outside.
I know, I saw.
Stopping him from getting out. It was like a pincer movement, you know.
It was absolutely wonderful, mate. You lifted my spirit, mate. And I tell you what, you lifted the spirit of millions of other people, I'm sure, particularly the people that were inspired by, you know, the whole Corbyn surge, and, you know, seeing it kind of just smashed to smithereens. To see you were just wonderful, mate. I mean, that will go down as an iconic moment in history. You know, I mean, you said that, you know, one of the most influential women in the last 100 years. Well, that alone, mate, has got to be just, you know, up there. It's a pinnacle. It's bloody brilliant. I don't know if I was watching it earlier on today, and just amazing. I mean, that guy tried to move you on. It was
don't touch my breast.
You were having none of it. It was just really brilliant, mate. Just brilliant. You know. So,
I mean,
but you know, go on. Sorry, you were going to say something.
I was going to say about that whole thing. I don't think anyone will get near him again.
No, indeed,
and of course, I was the first. You know, not I was. I think of it as an MPA thing. We were the first people to sort of put him on the spot, and because, as I say, the press weren't going to do it. The parliamentary party are all so intimidated that they won't open their mouths about anything, even war or anything. They're all gagged and bound and gagged and tied up. And who else is going to do it? Again, little pensioners in Liverpool.
Well, yes, again, you know, set the standard, and I mean, and that was, as I say, incredibly uplifting to see. And it just demonstrates, doesn't it? That really, I mean, the guy's just completely vacuous because he had nothing to say to you. He didn't know how to respond to you. And pathetic, really, you know. Well, no interpersonal kind of, you know. I mean, if that was me, if that was Jeremy, or, you know, many people, like George Galloway and others, you know. And they've dealt with, you know, difficult customers, you might say, you know, but they would have a way of at least interacting. You just sat there like a naughty schoolboy. It was incredible.
He could have pulled the rug from under me by saying, well, I'm so sorry you feel like that. Can you sit down and we'll have a talk about
it? Exactly. That's the way I would have dealt with it, and Jeremy, and I'm sure others as well, you know. But you know, just in terms of the Merseyside Pensioners Association, as I say, which kind of is you know, sets the standard. I mean, if other people may be watching, and you know, they may be inspired by what you're saying and interested maybe in setting up their own group. I mean, would you, I mean, do Merseyside Pensioners Association mentor other groups around the country and give them some pointers and tips on how to go on?
Well, we have done actually, funny enough, in Manchester during the COVID thing, but the COVID thing, what a way to talk about it, the pandemic. What we do is affiliated to the National Pensioners Convention,
right?
Which is nowhere near as, we're probably the largest pensions organisation in the country. And we've recruited people during the pandemic. We've lost some of our members who've, been, just because we are an elderly organisation, but also because there's been the pandemic. But we're affiliated with the National Pensions Convention, so we attend their conferences and so on. Right. And we are very much more demanding, if you like, because they're supposed to be non-political. How can you be non-political? Because our motto is that we fight for pensioners and all who come after. So there's hardly, we can't be party political, but we actually do, call ourselves socialists. We're just writing a new constitution, which will have some of these things written in it, because we are committed to, changing society for the better, for the elderly. I mean, what's going to happen in this country? We're fighting for, we've got powerful unions fighting for, like the RMT, absolutely wonderful. Fire Brigade, all of them. And we all come and speak at us, but, we've got the worst pension in the whole of Europe. How do we fight?
Oh, it's just shocking. I know. And the fifth biggest economy, it's absolutely outrageous. So I think what you're saying there then, Audrey, is that, people watching who might be interested, not necessarily involved, and would like to maybe set up the group, the route through it is to the National Pensioners Convention. That's the way to go.
No, you have to set up an organisation first, and then affiliate.
And then affiliate. That's right. Okay. But that's how the interaction would take place via that route, though.
Yeah, we don't really coordinate anything between any of the groups except for the Northwest Pensioners Convention, which is quite good actually. I mean, they meet once a month. But I mean, we should be a really powerful force, and I wish we had a bit more powerful leadership. Really, in the pensioners movement, that is political. We can't shy away from politics.
No, well, in fact, I mean, the point you said about we're a non-political organisation is a political statement in itself, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let me just, because I know we've only got half an hour, so there's a few things I just wanted to sort of get your thoughts about. I mean, we touched on it just a moment ago, actually. About Liverpool's sort of got a reputation as I was saying in the opening remarks, as sort of a political city, a progressive city, a socialist city, and so I think we were saying before we went on air that people were shocked actually by the protest against asylum seekers in Knowsley, and I know you've just said that you put a video up about it, but I just think that the sense that there's actually some people that hold kind of very right wing, far right, almost fascist views in Liverpool. It just sort of seems sacrilege, really. I mean, what's the local reaction in Liverpool been to that protest that took place?
Well, you have to think. I think most of us on the left have warned that if the soft left, and that's why we have to be careful how we frame things, the soft left, which is those who purported to be in support of Corbyn and jumped on the bandwagon and took up positions from MPs to councillors, have really betrayed the class. And when that happens, which way does a person who's, people, we can call them the left behind and all the rest of it. These are people with, live in deprived areas and, have got nothing. And then they're like a gift to the right wing and to the reactionary forces of fascists and racists. And of course, the press, it doesn't come out of nowhere. The press has been drip. We know all this has been terrible, and so has Labour. I mean, it started really, with over decades with Labour. Same problem. All the rest of it. You can move goods all around the world. You can move money all around the world. But when it comes to human beings, gosh, hang on, we can't move them around the world. They're a burden. Well, hang on, let them work. Oh no, we don't want them to work because they steal our jobs and all this bloody nonsense. But you see, you've got to address it, haven't you? you've got to address how those people feel in the communities politically.
Yeah.
And that hasn't happened. There's been this massive vacuum. And can I just say, we have been caught with our pants down, because normally Liverpool would absolutely see them off, the fascists. You've seen when we locked them all in Lime Street station and things like that. I mean, I've run, over the years down the steps of a railway station with sticks, with gangs of people physically chasing the fascists off, back onto a train. These are the things that we do. We are a radical city, but with this massive vacuum that's happened, we do only react. We haven't got the political fight has been taken up with all this stuff about the betrayals of the Labour Party, the nonsense out of calling good anti-racists Demites, and then we've had this betrayal from the massive cuts from our council of just introducing £70-odd million more cuts, and they say, oh, we can't do anything about that, we just have to introduce them as kindly as we can. Well, there's no such thing as kind cuts.
No, absolutely. I mean, and something we've covered on Resistance TV in the past, that there are options available for local authorities, not without breaking the law, without setting illegal budgets, to use Tory legislation to introduce redistributive council tax bans, and to basically ensure that the rich people in the borough each borough pays a lot more, and protect everybody else, as a way of stopping the cuts. And indeed building council houses, or building and acquiring properties. They could do that because there's no cap on the housing revenue account anymore. But I think one of the problems has been, hasn't it, Audrey, that particularly New Labour, there's been this kind of, for a long time now, focus on identity politics, and class politics has been kicked into touch.
Absolutely appalling. Absolutely appalling. I've never really got into all this identity politics, and it's really ruined, ruined debate and everything. And what can you say? The stuff that's going on now is just all, you feel it's diversionary. When you've got, they had, to talk about what happened on Friday, was that, what I think what's happened is they've been working in that area, the racist and the fascist group. Well, we do know the fascist groups have, and they're nurturing young people, but they still had to bus in people from different parts of the country. I don't know how far away, but there was probably only about 40 of them there.
Right.
From what I'm hearing, because I actually was still a bit full of cold now. I didn't go on Friday night. A lot of the MPA were there. The filmmakers were there, and about probably 6 or 8 other MPA members, which proportionately was really good, because we only really heard about it at the last minute, and it was very, very frightening. I mean, I've heard some of the stories are terrible. People couldn't get home; they had to go back with their cars the next day. But what's happened, I think, is it's been like something exciting's happened down the road, and kids and everyone have joined in and started throwing things at the police as well. So it was actually, not the way it's been portrayed in the press, that it was anti-fascists and fascists fighting together. It was a very peaceful demonstration of people wanting to protect the refugees. And they stood with them. And I'm proud that we did them. Apparently there's about 150 of us, and about 400 of them. But, because people came out of the woodwork. So it's a dangerous situation. So we got very quickly got together, 12 o'clock the next day. And we put together a demonstration. We're putting together work that we've got to do in the long term. All the different groups, every group that you can think of under the sun is taking part in this very, very hard work, trying to do things on WhatsApp groups with 120 people.
Oh, yeah. Indeed,
but I managed to speak to Jeremy yesterday, and he's coming quite late on last night, and he's agreed to come.
Good.
And speak Saturday, should I say, and speak about it. We've got to have a massive show of support.
Yeah.
Because we win things when we refuse to be beaten.
Absolutely. I mean, we were kind of hammered, and the only way's up now. And the work that you've been doing, the campaign you've been doing, and the Merseyside Pensioners Association, and all the groups, as you say, that's the role model that we need to look to. And don't give up, never give up. We have an absolute obligation to continue to resist. But you just mentioned Jeremy there, and of course, I'm sure you'll have seen Sir Keir Starmer's latest pronouncement, where he's saying that Jeremy will never be a Labour candidate. Frankly, I think Jeremy it would have been better walking out anyway, actually, and joining us in the Socialist Labour Party, or joining George in the Workers' Party. I mean, the Socialist Labour Party and the Workers' Party are collaborating to try and bring this No to NATO campaign together, which I'll ask you for your thoughts on that in a moment as well, if you don't mind, Audrey. But it'd be interested to get your thoughts about Sir Keir Starmer's latest outpouring, and what he said about Jeremy, and this notion that somehow, and the EHRC for that matter, the EHRC is saying, well, the Labour Party out special measures now, no issue with anti-Semitism, and yet Starmer is presiding over far more Jewish members being kicked out because they are socialists, because they are anti-imperialists, because they support the Palestinian cause. I mean, far more Jewish people are being targeted now and treated incredibly badly. I mean, they weren't being treated badly under Jeremy. It was a bloody myth. That was not happening, actually. It was a lie, just weaponized and used. But I mean, I'd just be interested in I'm sure our viewers will be as well, and your thoughts, and what Starmer said about Jeremy today.
Well, I don't think it was any surprise. I don't think anybody can be surprised by it. I don't think Jeremy's that naive to be surprised either. But I think it's been a waiting period to see who would jump first. And I hope that, and I've always hoped this, that Jeremy sets up a party, with his peace and justice, or I mean, I've even said, at the worst, we have to just have independence right across the country. Whoever wants to stand anywhere, who's an authority on us, spent decades fighting, all these campaigners who've been fighting for years are more authoritative than these MPs.
Good Lord, absolutely.
On their particular subjects. And this is what we need. We need dedicated people who've spent, people who campaign for the Women's Hospital here, they read documents like that week in and week, well, not week in and week out, some of these CCG meetings and all the rest of it. Yeah. And they're fit, like Dr. Bob Gill, they've all got their fingers on the pulse and know the score, and not even consulted by these MPs to get information to be able to fight on behalf of the NHS. Trade union leaders are the same. We're having really the fight we've had in the Labour Party, we're having within the unions as well. I'm going off the point there. But
it's fine.
The whole thing is, if in the end, Jeremy can't stand, it puts him in a position, what is he going to do? I don't know what he's going to do. I'm not an authority on anything. But what I think is the responsibility, history, there's a big weight of history on his shoulders, because no matter what you say, no matter what anybody says, we were infected. Everybody.
Most definitely, yeah, absolutely. I just wish Jeremy had stood up to the detractors a bit more, instead of trying to bring them around, which is that was
maybe the movement should have fought harder, because the way he was
I agree. Absolutely.
But what I'd say is that we were infected by socialism.
Yes.
We were infected with the ideas. It wasn't Jeremy. It was the ideas. Whoever had stood up and done that, but he was particularly good at it. Infected the whole of the country. No, we didn't dream the idea. We didn't dream that from Land's End to John O'Groats, people were queuing round the corners and having meetings. We didn't dream it. It was real, and those ideas are still there. Some people are getting disillusioned. And slash your wrist time, but it isn't slash your wrist time, because those ideas are really right through the trade union movement today, and they're finding another way to fight what's going on. And if that body of people who are represented, I mean, honest to God, 80-odd% turnouts and votes for strike action, it's horrible going on strike. You lose your wages and all the bloody rest of it. Look how determined people are. So I think the infection that Jeremy Corbyn released amongst all of us for the hope of a better world is still absolutely at the core of most people at the moment.
Absolutely.
And if he does do it, I think there would be a roller coaster, steamroller that will smash what's going on. But at the end of the day, it's what's going on the ground. I don't believe in this. It's going to be, Tony Benn used to say it, didn't he? It's not going to be one man on a charger who's going to come along there. So it doesn't matter if it's number 10 Downing Street, if there isn't a mass movement out there.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. I mean, one of the things I've been, keep banging on about is the importance of us collaborating, the left outside the Labour Party, collaborating and trying to bring some of those people who are clinging to the notion that somehow the Labour Party is salvageable. It isn't. I think we've got to destroy the Labour Party. It needs to go the way of PASOK and the rest of the useless social democratic parties on the continent, because they're all signed up to the neoliberal project. They're all signed up to the war machine. And we've seen now that, what Jeremy did, as you say, infected people with this sort of sense of purpose, this hope, rehabilitated socialism. It was seen as a dirty word, wasn't it? And and what it demonstrated was there's a massive appetite for it. I mean, I've actually messaged Jeremy, and he's not responded. I've said, following what's happened, you ought to consider, throwing your weight behind the Socialist Labour Party or joining the Workers' Party. I think, or indeed setting up his own thing, because Jeremy, there's still a lot of people, do look to him, and I think he could have a big impact, like you say. Let's hope he does one of those three things anyway. Audrey. But I just wanted to ask you as well about the No to NATO rally that we've had terrible problems trying to find a venue for. We've been cancelled from two, as you know, and I know you've had a lot of abuse when you announced that you were going to be speaking at the rally on the 25th of February, which is going to go ahead now. But I just wondered whether you would say just a word or two, Audrey, about why you agreed to speak. I know you've been a long-standing anti-war campaigner and been involved in Stop the War in Liverpool, but just specifically about this campaign that we're launching now, No to NATO, No to War. I mean, why did you agree to speak at it?
Because people have got to realise that you can't be selective over which wars you oppose. You're either for peace or you're not. And this particular war has had all the people who rallied us to go and attack Iraq. They're the same people who have a bloodlust for this arming Ukraine, and you only have to follow the money. So that's one of the reasons I've been an anti-war campaigner. I'm not selective in the wars I'm against. I'm against Putin. I'm against an invasion of Ukraine. And you can take that position of being against invasion. You can say, I hope people rise up in Russia and get more democracy in Russia. But I also hope that happens in my country. I'm working hard every day for that to happen in my country. But you can also say that NATO is not a force for the good. NATO is a force that actually is very provocative in lining up missiles around a country that they committed, that they were committed not to do. And I think any country put in that position would, do what Russia's done and appealed for many, many years, and had agreements and all in place and so on. And then when they've been betrayed, take the sort of action they do, because Putin is I don't call people oligarchs, but these people are all in the same class, if you like. That they're not communists or socialists or or anything. They're probably, I don't know what his personal politics are, but at the end of the day, they're not radical socialists and peacemakers. So it was they knew what he was going to do. He told them.
Well, and of course, and I mean, absolutely. I mean, and you had the Bucharest Declaration in 2008, saying that Ukraine would become a member of NATO. The expansion of NATO is nearly doubled in size since the Soviet Union collapsed. And of course, there's been a war. Let's remember, the US backed, and the EU, for that matter, backed a coup in Ukraine, and they've been waging war against East Ukraine and Donbass region, and I think 14,000 people had been killed in that before this invasion took place. I mean, they disregarded the peace and security proposals that Russia put forward, that Putin put forward in December of 2021.
Where was the pound? Yeah, where was
they
the
just
pound?
dismissed. Exactly, But I just wanted to just get your thoughts as well, because we're nearly at an end here. Because you've got all these warmongers in Parliament, and they were all kind of like fawning over Zelensky when he came and addressed both houses of Parliament. It was stomach churning. But even people like John McDonnell, for God's sake, I mean, he says that sending weapons to Ukraine is the best path to peace. I mean, have you been surprised by the absence of anti-war voices in Parliament?
Well, I'm very disappointed in John. I mean, I know John well. I've known him, for many years. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know I sound very harsh sometimes, but I can't frame it any other way. It's an absolute betrayal of the peace movement to make a statement like that. I really do. I really do. I don't hedge my bets. It is an absolute betrayal of the peace movement to talk like that. And I think two things. The Socialist campaign group, when Corbyn had the whip taken off him, they should have walked across the floor.
Absolutely. That's what I urged them to do, and many others did too. But, yeah.
Not worry about, what about my job? What about my job?
Exactly. That's what it was.
Imagine if I was campaigning, when I was a manager in the store in the 80s, and the girl said to me about the sexual harassment, oh, well, I can't say anything. What about my job?
Exactly.
Because I did lose my job, and I never worked again, to be honest with you. But, so there's that. And then over this, when the Socialist campaign group, a lot of them signed the anti-war letter.
Yeah, and then took the name off. Yeah.
And it's just like Kim Johnson when she said about Israel.
Oh, I know.
And she's got the amnesty report in front of her. She's got the fact that within Israel themselves they're being called fascist, and yet she backed down. There is absolutely no bravery. There is no principles. There is no integrity, and I still think it's not too late for them to find it. I think there's always time for them to find.
Well, there's always time to redeem yourself, I suppose. But, I mean, for me, Audrey, look, I mean, as you know, I was an MP, and I felt that when you have you're under an obligation to stand up for what's right, to fight for what you believe in. And to an even greater extent than, you were saying when people approach you, well, I'm frightened of my job. I mean, that's more understandable in those circumstances. But as a politician, that's what you're there for crying out loud. Listen, just finally, Audrey, because we've gone over time, actually, because I know we were saying we're going to only go till about 7:30, and it's 7:32 now. How can people follow you in terms of what you do on social media and also Merseyside Pensioners Association? How can they follow you?
Can I just get my phone and I'll tell you what it is?
Go on, yeah. Sorry to drop that on you. Sorry.
I'm hang on. What? Hang on. Let me just tell you. Red Rosa, Audrey White at Red Rosa. 919400184. Anyway, it'll just come up with people Audrey White at Red Rosa, and then the other, and then the other one is Merseyside. Let me just double check. Merseyside Pensioners Association at Mersey Pensioner, and follow both of us. We've actually got 5,140 followers, and the National Pensioners Convention's got about 600. So it shows.
Oh my God! So well, hopefully you'll get a few more after tonight.
Please, follow us and say hello, and great. And I think we've all got to just keep fighting. And I think we shouldn't be pessimists because we've got people who aren't representatives. There's millions of people out there who are ready to fight, and I think it's a fantastic time. It's a hard time, but it is an optimistic time because I think we've got a future to fight for.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Audrey, for coming on. Look, The Only Way Is Up. Was a song, wasn't it, in the 80s? I think was it Yaz or something? So So that's basically, and I mean, look, we're socialists, aren't we? So, you know, we're dreamers, and we have to believe that that we can build a better future. And as you say, if we stick together, if we stand together, we are unstoppable. And that's the thing I think we need to instill in people, that sense of solidarity. Look, Audrey, it's been an absolute privilege and pleasure to have you on the programme today. Hopefully you'll come on again another time. But thanks for coming on tonight. I'm sure our viewers have really enjoyed listening to you. Thanks to our viewers as well. And we'll be back next week at the same time, 7 o'clock. So until then, look after yourself and good night.